Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jawad from TIB, here with two of my colleagues, Rohit and Vijay. We are presenting you with JenPlane installation, configuration, and usage scenario. So this is basically that we will be introducing what is JenPlane in a very short explanation. And then after that, we show you what you need to install JenPlane as a web application, how to install it, what are the, let's say, important configuration items to set it up. And when everything is set up and running, then we also show you how to use it to create different, let's say, entities, like how to create organizations, how to onboard different tools, and then how to create a data manipulation process. So the whole idea is that you can create a process. Using this process, you can actually find, based on our recommendation engine, what are the proper tools to make that process automated. And then we generate a full automation for you so that you can run it on a Kubernetes cluster. So we will see of this detail a little more during the installation and usage process. But first, let's see what is the JenPlane in general and how does it work. Next, please. Thank you. So JenPlane is basically a data governance or data management process. You may have seen different data lifecycle management, for example, that of GF Bio in Germany, or that of USGS or Data One in the United States, or that of DC, for example, in the United Kingdom. So there are different mechanisms how to manage data and how to manage data-intensive projects. By data-intensive project, we mean that you are running a relatively large data processing project that involves multiple steps. It needs multiple tools, it needs multiple people, and it also needs to manipulate data in different ways. So for that, different people have created different life cycles to actually to help organize, prepare, and predict what to do with those data and tools and so on, and also to estimate the cost, the effort, the duration, the skill set that you need, and so on. So here with JenPlane, we are introducing a flexible data management process, which is basically a Cartesian system with an x-axis here that is toward the delivery, and a y-axis, a vertical axis, that is the discipline. Here, the disciplines are basically the let's say the working groups or the areas of work that you may need to run your data intensive project. And the delivery axis is basically taking you from the conception of your work, like experimentation, exploring with the data, checking whether the data fits to your purpose, and so on, and then takes you to the implementation, which is the real implementation of your analysis work or your let's say data manipulation, clustering, whatever that you want to do with the data. When you are done with that and got some results, then it shifts your focus to the publishing of that. Publishing can be the data, can be the process itself, can be the finding, can be a data paper about what you have found, and so on. And then also it helps you to do preservation. So again, preservation here is that how do you preserve your data for a long time? How do you preserve your processes or your scripts or whatever, or methodology that you have done? This is basically for enterprise or institutional obligations. It can be for referencing, like if you have used in a paper and so on. It can be for reproduction and for different purposes. So it basically guides you. I mean, the phases or the x-axis is helping you to shift focus from the experimentation at the early stages of your work to the real implementation, to publishing and dissemination, and then to the preservation of your work. From the other side, the the y-axis or the vertical axis is helping you to divide the work items that you need to do the activities. Like you may need to do some analysis, you may need to integrate data from different sources, even you may need to discover whether the data is really fit for your purpose and so on. You may need at the publishing or preservation phase, you may need to describe the data that you have used, or even to describe the data that you have produced in terms of your project. You may need to do some quality assurance, for example, not only on your data, but also on your methods, your algorithms, and so on. And then in cases that you need external data, one part of your work would be actually to acquire the data. This acquire can be like buying the data, can be downloading and reformatting the data, can be generating data or obtaining data from, let's say, experiments, sensors, so on. Just stay here, please. So on top of all these things, you will have a planning activity that you have to do actually to plan your work, to organize it, especially if you have a team that is more than one person, or in cases that you are doing a distributed data management, like for example, you are observing multiple geological sites in Germany or in Amazonia and so on, and then some part of the team is here in Germany, some part is in France, some parts are in Amazonia, in Brazil. So in this case, you need this kind of planning to be done. The power that this JenPlane data management process gives you is that you are flexible in choosing when and how much do you need each of these categories of disciplines. Like if you look here at the analysis, for example, in the consumption phase, you do some experimentation to find out which analysis is fit for you. Then in the implementation phase, you do a lot of analysis, but in the publishing and preservation, you are just double checking whether your analysis was okay. So the amount of the work and the amount of the effort that you have to put in the analysis changes from phase to phase. If you look at the preserve, for example, basically you don't do preservation in consumption and implementation. You start doing this in the publication phase and later on extensively in the preservation phase. So this is basically giving you the chance and the power to flexibly choose when you want to put focus on where. So this is basically part of the flexibility. The other thing is that inside each of these phases, you see some vertical lines that are separating activities. So this is basically designed to give you the power to iterate over phases. It means that you can divide the implementation phase, for example, into 3, 4, 5 iterations, like short iterations, to actually to provide a feedback mechanism inside your team, so that if something is going wrong, if something is not ready, or if something is not enough, you can reevaluate yourself and then replan the iteration so that you can actually have a more smooth and more predictable output at the end of each phase. So this is basically giving you the overall structure. And then each of these colored boxes here that you see in orange, green, blue, and I guess is dark blue at the end, they are representing different activities that you may need, like, for example, analyzing, selecting a methodology, for example, or selecting a data discovery platform, and so on. So these different things are giving you the freedom to choose different activities, and with that to come up with the expected output. Again, the size of these boxes gives you an indication of, like, vertical size. It gives you the amount of the effort that you need to put in this activity in this phase. And the width is giving you an indication of the duration of the time that you need, or for different purposes, different reasons, you need to put on this in that phase again. So based on your, for example, team member availability, the duration may vary. And then based on the skill set that they have, the amount of the effort that they would put in an activity can vary. So this gives you some sort of a project planning mechanism, so that you can estimate the amount of work that you need, the type of skill set that you need, the type of roles that you need, like for example, how much data scientist do you need, how much data engineer do you need, how much biologist do you need for your project, and so on. And then based on that, you can create a data management plan to come up with all the skills, all the tools, all the timings, and all the anticipated output or outcome from your project. This is basically a very essence of JenPlane. So next, please. Yeah, so here we are basically presenting it as a non-sequential, two-dimensional, and flexible data management. So you don't need to have like a rigid sequence of execution of activities. This two-dimensional mechanism gives you to shift focus from anywhere to anywhere based on some logic, and also to shorten or to lengthen the phases that you think are more required for your project. So based on this, we have created a web application. It's called JenPlane Process Designer that is basically representing this with more flexibility. And at the end, this JenPlane tool, the Process Designer, not only gives you the feasibility to design the process, but at the end, based on its database of tools, like software tools, it is capable of giving you recommendations for basically for automating your process. So it gives you tools that can basically implement the activities that you have put on your design surface. And based on that, it can provide you with an automation plan. That automation plan is an executable version of your process. And then you can take that into a runtime system, like, for example, Kubernetes or Argo workflow execution engine and so on, and then execute it there. So it would be an automation degree. In the very best case, it will be 100% if there are enough supporting tools. Otherwise, it would be like a partial automation of your process. This automation gives you the chance to not only execute the process automatically and reduce the dependency on people and on manual work and so on, but also it gives you the chance to reproduce it or repeat it several times or publish it as part of the preservation of your outcome so that other people can also double check or follow up with you, or they can actually get your workflow as a template for their own work and then customize it further for their own purposes. So basically, is part of the dissemination of your scientific results if you are doing scientific research. If you are inside an enterprise, it can be a template or a guideline for the other groups to actually to follow up on that. And for the third party, like for outsiders, that can be a proof of reproducibility and many other preservation benefits here. So for today, I'm stopping here because the focus is on the tool. So after me, Rohit, my colleague, will present JenPlane installation steps. What are the requirements? What are the main configuration items? And then he will take us through a simple scenario to design a process, get tool recommendations on that, and then execute it on a Argo workflow. Thank you for your attention. I'm passing to Rohit. Rohit, please.
Yep. Hi everyone. So, okay. Yeah. So this is the JenPlane installation process. So first of all, the front end, we build the front end with the React application. The backend is REST compatible, and then the triples the storage is a triple store, which is a graph DB. So we are storing all the information in the form of RDF in the graph database. And then the prerequisites that we need to install the JenPlane are Docker and then Git. So these two needs to be there on your machine. And then there are certain system requirements, like we need like 2 plus cores of CPU. RAM should be minimum 4 GB. Storage should be 20 GB, and then it is compatible with Linux. The application is actually compatible with Linux, with Windows, and with Mac OS also. So it works with all the three operating systems. And then yeah, the software stack is Docker. So yeah, so we just need Docker on the system, and then we can actually just install the application. So I will show it in a moment now. Yeah. So basically, these are a few installation steps that we need to follow in order to install the JenPlane on our local. So first, you need to have the machine access to your machine. Either it's a local or on the virtual machine, and if you are working on the server, and then we just create a simple working directory. We can clone the directory, and then these are directories inside the main directory. Then there we can actually go, and then we can actually tune the config items based on our requirements, and then we can just do this Docker Compose up, and we can see the main application. So I'm just about to show you this thing, how we can do this thing. So yeah, just give me a minute. Yeah. So here I'm just opening my Open Git Bash, and then I'm just cloning the repository here from my branch from the
Is
main.
not visible for us.
Okay. Yeah. It's visible now. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So here I
If
can just
possible,
do.
just enlarge it, please.
Mhm. Yeah, maybe like this. Then we can just do git clone. And then
Is it possible to enlarge the font also?
I can try. 1 second. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So we can just do. So we can just clone this repo. So I'm just cloning it here. It will take just a minute. Yeah, it's done. So yeah, we can go here. As you can see, it has been cloned, and now we can actually do cd. We can go inside the folder, which is a designer tib.databricks, and then inside the src we have a docker compose file. So we can actually do some. 1 second. Yeah. Yeah, in order to run this thing on your machine, so there are certain things that we need to comment. So these line needs to be comment out, and then few lines needs to be uncommented. And basically we can use this on the VM also. So on your server. So on the server we need this external network external in order to make the containers talk to each other. But on local it's not needed. So that's why I'm just commenting these things out. Mhm. Okay. Yeah. So once it's done, you can just directly do Docker Compose up. So yeah. Mhm. So it will take few minutes, not even few minutes, and then the application will be done. So yeah, just waiting it to for the server to yeah to be up. Yeah. Yeah, so here as you see, so it's up and then yeah.
So just as a side note is that this application includes 4 containers. One is for the front end, one is for the back end, one is for the database, and one is for the recommendation engine. So this is why in the Docker you saw those networking, so that if they are running on same machine, the networking would be okay. But if you are like um, deploying them on a cluster and so on, they need to know where the other components are. And for that, we are creating a virtual network. That was the reason why you saw that network items commented out.
Yeah, yeah. And now I can, so once it is up, we can actually go to local host 3000. Yeah, I see. So once it is done, so the application will be up. And so basically this is the basic dashboard of the JenPlane organization or like the applications. So we already have few organizations, processes, projects, and tools. So I'm going through all of them one by one, how to store all these things, how to onboard the process, how to onboard the tools, and then I can yeah, show the complete thing again, go to the presentation and do the back and forth. But yeah, so this is the process here. So we can actually create some organization, this, and then so version number. Yeah, maybe 10. Yeah, so let's so if the organization has image, then you can choose the image also. But if the image is not there, then also it's fine. So we can actually save it, and then once we save it, so we can see. So now we have 13 organizations. In order to see all the organizations, we can see, and then we can go. And here also so there's an option of edit, so we can edit some of the information here as well. And now I want to show the process onboarding basically. So the process onboarding is a template that we need to use in order for our projects, in order for our projects to see the tasks or to see different things basically. And yeah, so it's a template. It's a so here, yeah. So
So
here,
this processes, sorry, Roy, this process
yeah,
are basically JenPlane templates or profiles that we create, or in general, anybody else can also create. They contain those phases, disciplines, activities, and so on. And if there is any dependency between them, so any regulation that we want to be inside the processes, they will be actually put into this kind of process templates. And then when you are creating your own data flow, you will be creating based on one of these things, but you can customize it later on. Yeah, right.
yeah. And then so here are so basically before uploading this file, so once we are in the process, so here there are few examples basically of how the process RDF file looks like. So basically you can create an process file based on this example and what things that we need for it. So this is an example for it, and yeah, here, and then this is the information that we need, icons and all these things. So all the information is here, and then we can go to the upload file, and then maybe for again, yeah, so it should be a zip file, so I can go here, and then yeah, and then once we upload the zip file here, we can see again the uploaded files information, all the information, so we can check if something is wrong there. And also the icons, so there would be like some of the things, so we can see all these things here before uploading the files, before saving the file into the database. And then once we saved, so it says process stored successfully, and then we can see that previously there were 2 processes, now there are 3 processes. Now before creating the project, so we have to onboard some of the tools. So right now there are 4 tools here, so I'm just onboarding one another tool. So and this is the, so just give me a minute. Yeah. So, so this would be the repo name where the tools are stored, or tools are tools are present, and then maybe the personal token. Yeah. So right now I'm just using mine. Yeah, so we can, and then we can click on the submit. So as soon as we click on the submit, again there is a it will redirect to another page where we can see the information regarding the tools, and then if everything seems fine, then we can just click on the save, and then it will be stored. So you see, so right now it's the tool also has been onboarded, and then to see the information inside the tools, we can just click on this here, and then we can see who is the owner of the tool, the license, the ID, and the operations present inside the tool, and all the other information related to the operations are there. So we can see all this information as well. Yeah. So once these steps has been done,
One,
so yeah.
one point here is that the tool that is onboarded here is basically only the information about the tool. The software itself is not here. I mean, the binary or source code or nothing is not here. It will be in its original repository. The image will be registered in some image registry that we will be seeing later. But here we just need some metadata about that is represented in that tool specification. Yeah.
So once these three things are done, we can go to the projects, and then we can create a project here. So let's say I'm just creating, so there are already three projects, but let's say I create a project, say project demo. So we can choose the organization here, like which organization is creating this project. So let's say I choose Oxford Semantic, or yeah, maybe this one. Again, so the process that we saw, so we can use any of the processes for like in order to make this thing work. So let's say I'm choosing DataBri-X Micro. So the version, so there is, right now there is one version, but in the future there will be like multiple versions of the same process also. So we can choose that also here. So, and also here, so this I will explain later, but this is something related to the execution when we are deploying basically our workflow. So I can explain this thing later. Yeah. And then here we can just write some description. Yeah, and then we can just workflow URL. Okay, yeah, so we need this workflow URL. So let's say I can just pass any workflow right now. Okay. One second. Wait 1 second. Yeah. Yeah. Yep, let's just 1 second. Yeah. Yeah, so actually we forgot one thing. So right now here we have some settings. So in the settings we have some global URLs. So that will be there. So once we have like this global URLs, it will be automatically fetched there. And later we, if we want, we can edit all those URLs. So that was within this. Yeah. think something's there, but yeah. So once we pass this information, so I will fix this issue. But once we pass this information, so we can just create the save project, and then the project will be saved. And then once the project is saved, so let's say we save the project based on the DataBri-X micro, we can go to the design view. So in the designer view, so now you can see there would be like some of the tasks like this. They would be like it. So the designer view will be fetched with some of the tasks that are already present in the process file. And then after that, we can actually, in order to do some kind of, so basically this thing will be a logical perspective based on the recommendation and the settings that we can make. But we can actually click on the recommendations. So like now based on some of the tasks, we can see few recommendations that has been recommended by the system. Yeah, by our recommendation engine. But there would be like some other recommendations also here, some other information also. So based on the requirement, we can choose any of the, basically any of the tools. So right now it's DCC query. So we have selected this. And for the next, it has suggested ORKG query. So now again, so if we need to change based on our requirement, we can select like net cost or anything. So right now it's like this. So we can select this. And then also like if we want, we can, so let's say if we do not want this thing, we can delete the tool, and then we can add few other tools into the designer view like this. So right now, let's say we don't need it. So we'll just remove these tools from here, the task from here, and then yeah. So we'll create this thing here.
One idea
Mm.
here is that with the recommendation, basically we try to find out which of the tools that have been registered in the system is a good option to be like used for the automation of the task that you put on the surface. So each tool contains one or more operations, or let's say services in this case. We look at the service description, look at this activity description that is coming from the process templates, and try to find the best match. And then among the match, we try to optimize them for the optimization objective that you have. At the moment here, selective objective is energy, but we are supporting, I guess, energy, cost, and duration.
Yeah. So
Yeah, cost
basically,
and duration here. So in the whole JenPlane process, there is a concept of optimization, which means that all of the operations of the tools that are onboarded here go through some sort of a benchmarking mechanism that is measuring them and attaching them energy label, cost label, and duration label to all of the operations. So with this, when we are doing that cross-matching in the recommendation phase, we also look at the optimization objective that the user has selected, and based on that, try to find out the best matching operation based on the objective. So it means that if you are designing this workflow to be optimized for cost, the tools and operations that we suggest are potentially different with regard if you are doing the same thing, but you want to optimize it for energy or for duration. I mean, if you want the workflow to run fast, the operation that we are suggesting you are potentially different uh, compared to the case that you want to lower your cost, for example. So this recommendation engine is taking care of that. But anytime that we are recommending something, you can basically override it by that selection that Rohit showed you. Maybe you just show it again if needed,
yeah.
just as a reminder.
Mhm. Yeah. And then here's another thing. So let's say if we are not recommending some of the tools, so there is a system, there is an option for custom here. So in the custom, so all the tools right now there are just 5 tools, but let's say if we have 20 tools, then all the 20 tools will be seen here, and then we can just simply select the tool from here, and then it will be shown here. So it will just come on top. So based on the requirement, we can do this thing here. And also like we are also working on the like this environment variable thing. So basically the whole point is like this here. So let's say this step that we were showing here needs some kind of an input in order to make that particular task run. So we can just at the runtime we can actually change the values, and then we can actually add more values also here depending on this depending on the task and the input that it needs, and then it can be taken like at the runtime, and then it will be shown in the workflow. So once this process is done, we can go to the compose. One second. Yeah, we can go to the compose. So in the compose, we can see the workflow generation file. So it will take all the values depending on the recommendations, depending on the image and everything. And then once everything is here, we can deploy it on the server. So on any server, we can deploy it. So let's say if you have so Argo server with your URL token, we can deploy it there. So right now I'm just using my local server for deploying it. So yeah. So I can just pass it. Yeah, and then it will say that deploy has been done successfully, and then we can actually see the steps here. So all the steps that are there in the workflow, and then there is a link also here. So if we click on the link, it will directly redirect us to the Argo server. So let's say here, and then here we can actually see the logs and everything, like the output for this and everything. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. So this will take some time, but yeah. Again, going to the, so this was basically the end-to-end workflow of this, of the complete presentation, of the complete JenPlane. And then here, so they are just in the presentation, it's just like the things that I showed. So like once the tool is up, once the application is up, we can see first of all the dashboard, and here we have like these organizations that we can add, the process that I showed, the tool onboarding process, and then the project we can just write, and then the project will be created there. Yeah, and we can see once the project is created, we can see the number of projects here. If we want, we can delete the projects also and edit the projects also. So this option is also there. Yeah, so it would be like this. So once the project, once we create the project, so this something like this should appear on the UI. So and then these tasks are based on the process templates that we choose, and then based on our need, we can either add a few tasks and we can delete few tasks also. So as I showed you in the demo. Yeah, and then the thing that Jawad was saying, so before applying for the recommendation, we have optimizations, and then here we can choose the optimization, whether it's energy or duration. Yeah, like this, and then yeah, and then they will be like this recommendations. Yeah, and then this is this complete workflow. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So one other thing that we need to show you is like this. So they will be the concept of schema mapping. So basically here the concept is here's like this. So whatever we are selecting on the initial step, so in the schema, in the second step or in the third step, it might we let's say we can use all the things, all the variables that we are selecting in the first step by using this schema mapping. So whatever we are writing on the first step will be populated in the schema mapping automatically, and then it can be chosen based on the needs or based on the subsequent tasks. And then the thing of deploying the code. So workflow generation and deploying the code. So here we can just deploy it. Yeah. So and then in the end, so the mean last output will be like this. If all the steps are okay, then it's like this. And if there is some error, then it will throw some error. Yeah. So yeah. So yeah. So yeah, this was from my side. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Rohit. Olga, back to you. And if there is any question, or how do we want to proceed?
Thank you, Rohit, for the great presentation. We have one question in the chat from Michael. So maybe, Michael, you would like to speak, or we just read the question? So it's regarding to the front end for the data space. So maybe Rohit or you, Jawad, can reply this question.
I see a question that says that, do I understand correctly that JenPlane is a front end for a data space? No, the answer is no. JenPlane is basically a process designer, that this process designer, based on the tools, can interact with data spaces, but is not a front end for a data space. Hopefully that was useful. And he said that I cannot speak. Okay. Can't unmute my micro. Possibly Olga, they are not able to speak, or?
No, they are able, so they are not.
Yes,
blocked.
now it works. I could not unmute my microphone. It was not possible
Okay.
from the organizer side. So Jawad, thank you for clarifying that. It was just a question in the big picture, because I was late in the call and I saw this whole presentation in the context of data spaces and
You
hello?
are not audible. Okay. I could hear half of your sentence, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, no, I just saw the presentation in the context of data spaces and wanted to know where exactly does JenPlane fit in the whole data space world. That's my big picture question.
Okay, so with JenPlane, basically you design a data manipulation, data analysis workflow, right? This workflow needs to be executed somewhere. For execution, you need tools and operation and data. So we are modeling them all in data, let's say in tool operations. So with the recommendation and with user manipulation of those recommendations, you can assign operations to the task on the logical level. Okay. So our assumption is that if you need any data that is coming from a data space or going to a data space, there would be a representative task, representative operation in some of the tools that can do that for you. And then in the process of recommendation, we can find and match them. So from our perspective, I mean, from JenPlane perspective, everything that is going outside or coming from outside has a representative operation.
Okay, thanks, I guess.
Okay, Olga, back to you.
Yeah, we don't have any more question in the chat. I don't
Yeah,
see
maybe then I
any.
have one more. Like, is
Yes,
JenPlane, Jawad, is JenPlane, it's a software developed in the DataBri-X project, or is it already in use somewhere else?
No, it's developed in DataBri-X project.
Okay.
Yeah, the work has been started before DataBri-X, but the development is in DataBri-X.
Thanks.
Sure.
Any other questions? I don't see any raised hands. So I guess we come to the end of the webinar. I shared the link in the chat where you can find the whole recordings of our previous webinars, and this one also would be uploaded. Sorry for some technical issues in the beginning. If you have any questions, this is your last chance to raise the hand. Seems like not the case. So then we will thank you, Jawad and Rohit, for the great presentation, and look forward for the next webinars, I guess, in the March, April, in the beginning.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.